When I announced my culinary school scholarship, my parents shouted, "Who's gonna do the chores?" No congratulations, no encouragement from them. Out of frustration, I decided to do this for the first time in my life. It gave me something that no one could take away. My name is Hannah, 24 years old. Now, I am sitting in my tiny rented apartment, the hum of the city muffled by the thin walls. The place is small, just enough for a bed, a kitchenette, and a few belongings scattered around. A second-hand coffee table, scratched and worn, sits in front of me. An old bookshelf, slightly tilted, holds my modest collection of cookbooks. In the corner, a potted plant, lush, green, full of life, rests on the windowsill. It was a gift from Mia, the first real friend I ever had. This is all I have after 24 years of life. A few pieces of furniture, a handful of books, a plant. I lean back against the couch, staring at the ceiling, letting the weight of that word settle into my bones. Freedom. It doesn't come with fanfare or fireworks. It's not a sudden, dramatic moment like in the movies. No, it's quieter. It's sitting in a room that no one else controls. It's not having to answer a phone call with dread. It's knowing that, for once, I am living for myself. But it took me too long to get here. You know what it's like to be the forgotten one, the workhorse, the one who holds the family together but never gets held in return. And if you don't know, then let me take you back to where it all began. Back to when I was 7 years old. The day my siblings were born was supposed to be a happy day, and for a while it was. I remember standing on my tiptoes peering into the crib where two tiny wrinkled babies lay swaddled in soft blue and pink blankets, Noah and Lily. "They're so small," I whispered wide-eyed. My father chuckled, resting a hand on my shoulder. "You're a big sister now, Hannah. They're going to need your help." I nodded eagerly, puffing up my chest. I want to be the best big sister ever. I had no idea what that promise would cost me. At first, it was little things. Fetching diapers, picking up toys, setting the table while Mum fed one baby and rocked the other. I felt important, special, like I had a real purpose. But over time, the tasks multiplied. By the time I was 10, I wasn't just helping, I was responsible. I watched Noah and Lily when Mum needed a break, which was all the time. I cleaned up their messes, I made their snacks, I missed play dates and birthday parties because family comes first. That was the rule, family first, but in our house, family meant them, and I was something else, a background character in my own home. I learned early on that there was no point in asking for more. I remember my 11th birthday in vivid detail, not because it was special, but because it wasn't. Mom bought a grocery store cake. Dad handed me a used video game, still scratched from whoever owned it before me. One friend was allowed to come over, and we played a board game until Mum said it was getting late. That was it. A month later, Noah and Lily turned 4. They had a huge party. A princess and pirate theme, face painting, a magician, 15 preschoolers ran around our backyard while my parents handed out party favors. I wasn't invited to enjoy it. I was assigned cleanup duty. After the last guest left, I spent 2 hours scraping frosting off plates and picking up torn wrapping paper while Noah and Lily played with their mountain of new toys. I should have seen it then, I should have known. But when you grow up in a cage, you don't recognize the bars until you've spent years rattling them. By the time I was 13, I was running the house. Every morning, I woke up the twins, helped them get dressed, made their breakfast, packed their lunches. Then I walked them to school before sprinting to make it to my own classes on time. After school, I picked them up, helped with their homework, cooked dinner, cleaned the kitchen, and did my own schoolwork late into the night. Mum and Dad both worked full-time jobs. They never said thank you, never acknowledged that I was doing more than most adults. And then at 16 came the worst betrayal. A family meeting. I should have known something was wrong when they told me to sit down at the kitchen table. The twins weren't included. Dad cleared his throat. "Hannah, we need to talk about something important." Mom nodded solemnly. "We're having some financial struggles. We need you to get a job after school to help support the family." I blinked. A job? Mom sighed like I was being difficult. "You're old enough now, you can find something part-time, a few hours a day." "But what about school, homework, the twins?" "You'll still be responsible for those things," she said, waving a hand like it wasn't a big deal. But the family needs this, Hana. We all make sacrifices. Noah and Lily didn't. But it wasn't a request. It never was. The next day, I got a job at a cafe 2 blocks from our house, washing dishes, cleaning tables, serving customers. Every paycheck went straight to my parents. Every single cent. I worked 30 hours a week on top of school, on top of running the house, and when I finally asked if I could keep just a little for myself, my mother's face twisted in disgust. We feed you and put a roof over your head, Hana. That money belongs to the family. I swallowed the lump in my throat. But I'm working hard. Shouldn't I get something? She glared at me, then sighed like she was doing me a favor. Fine, $100 a week. She handed it to me with the same expression someone might give a child begging for candy at the checkout aisle, like I was unreasonable, like I was selfish for wanting anything for myself. And the worst part, I accepted it. I let them take everything, my time, my energy, my future. Because when you've spent your whole life being told that your purpose is to serve, you start to believe it. But the thing about cages, even when you don't see the bars, some part of you still wants to be free. I just didn't know how, exactly, not yet. I didn't wake up one morning and suddenly realized I was being used. It didn't happen in a single defining moment. It happened gradually, so slowly, so naturally, that I didn't even notice I was disappearing. But I was. Piece by piece, core by core, expectation by expectation, my childhood was stripped away, and no one seemed to care. Least of all my parents. It started small. Sweetheart, grab me a diaper. Hana, pick up those toys, will you? Hana, be a good girl and hold the bottle for your brother while I get dinner started. At first, I liked being helpful. I liked the way my mother smiled when I rocked Noah in my arms. I liked how my father patted my head when I picked up after Lily. It made me feel important, like I had a role in something bigger than myself. But soon, it wasn't about being helpful. It was about being necessary. It was about being responsible. By the time I was 8, I wasn't just fetching diapers. I was changing them. I wasn't just picking up toys. I was putting 2 toddlers to bed every night while my parents relaxed in front of the TV. By 9, I was cooking simple meals and making sure Noah and Lily didn't burn the house down, while my mother took naps in the afternoon. By 10, I had officially replaced my mother as their primary caregiver. And the worst part? I didn't even realize it was happening. I thought this was normal. I thought this was just what big sisters did. I thought my parents were right when they told me over and over again, "You're the oldest, you have to help." So I did. I helped and helped, until there was nothing left of me that wasn't for them. I didn't realize something was wrong until I turned 11. I woke up that morning feeling a quiet sort of excitement. I didn't expect much. Birthdays in our house were never a big deal, but still, I thought maybe there would be something. A cake, a gift. A moment where I was seen. Instead, there was a store-bought cake sitting on the counter. The kind with stiff, artificial frosting and generic happy birthday lettering in smeared blue icing. Dad handed me a small wrapped box. I tore off the paper, revealing a second-hand video game. Scratched, a little worn, but still decent. "Thanks," I said, smiling. Mom let me invite one friend over. We played a board game at the kitchen table for an hour before she said it was getting late. That was it. No decorations, no party, no special attention. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself it was fine. But then, a month later, Noah and Lily turned 4. And I saw what birthdays were supposed to look like. The living room exploded in color. Balloons, streamers, party favors everywhere. A massive cake sat on the dining table, custom made, 2-tiered, one side decorated as a pirate ship for Noah, the other a princess castle for Lily. A magician performed tricks in the backyard while 15 preschoolers ran around laughing, faces painted like superheroes and butterflies. Tables overflowed with gifts, so many that they had to be stacked in the corner because they wouldn't all fit on the table. It was loud, it was extravagant, it was overwhelming, and I wasn't invited to enjoy it. I was assigned cleanup duty. "Hana, sweetheart," Mom said, not even looking at me, just waving a hand toward the mess. "Can you help straighten up?" Not "thank you," not "we appreciate you," just a casual expectation, like I was the hired help. So I cleaned. For 2 hours, I picked up discarded party hats, scraped dried frosting off plates, collected half-eaten slices of cake, and gathered torn wrapping paper from the floor. While I worked, Noah and Lily sat on the floor, surrounded by mountains of new toys, new clothes, new games. They didn't notice me. Neither did my parents. I waited for some kind of acknowledgement, a nod, a glance, a single moment of appreciation. Nothing. Not a single person in that house even saw me. And for the first time in my life, I wondered if they ever had. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, something hollow settling in my chest. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It was something softer, something sadder. It was the quiet realization that I wasn't a daughter in this house. I was a worker. I was useful, and that was all. Because in our house, family meant them, and I was something extra, something expendable. I wish I could tell you that this was the moment I decided to fight back, that I stood up the next morning and demanded to be treated like their daughter, not their servant. But I didn't. Because when you've been told your whole life that your worth is measured in how much you can endure, you don't question it, you just keep enduring. And I did. For years, even when the resentment started bubbling under my skin, even when I knew that no matter how much I gave, it would never be enough, I kept going because I didn't know anything else, because I thought this was love, because I thought this was family, and because no one had ever told me that I deserved more. Now, sitting in my tiny apartment free for the first time in my life, I wonder how I ever let it happen. How I ever let them convince me that I was nothing. How I let myself believe that love and servitude were the same thing. But the thing about cages, even when you don't see the bars, some part of you still wants to be free. I just didn't know how. By the time I turned 16, I had already spent half my life raising my siblings. I thought I had given everything I could, that there wasn't anything left for my parents to take. I was wrong. Because that was the year they took the last thing I had left, my time. It started with a family meeting. I should have known something was wrong when my parents told me to sit down at the kitchen table. The twins weren't included. It was just me, Mom and Dad. Mom pressed her lips together, a look of forced sympathy on her face. Hannah, we need to talk about something important. Dad cleared his throat. The truth is, we've been struggling financially. Things are tight right now, and we need everyone to pitch in. Everyone. I already knew where this was going, but I still asked, what do you mean? We need you to get a job, Mom said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Just a part-time one, something flexible. A job, after school, on top of cleaning, cooking, and taking care of Noah and Lily. I hesitated. But what about my homework and the twins? You'll still be responsible for those things, Mom said quickly, as if that should be obvious. But the family needs this, Hannah. We all make sacrifices. All of us? I looked around the room, at the spotless counters I scrubbed every night, at the dishes I washed, at the pile of folded laundry on the couch that I'd put away later. The only one sacrificing anything was me. But that didn't matter. Because when my parents asked for something, it was never a request. It was an order. The next afternoon, I walked into Robert's Coffee House, a small cafe 2 blocks from our house, and asked for a job. I was hired on the spot. At first, I only worked a few hours after school, washing dishes, wiping tables, making coffee. The work was exhausting, but there was something freeing about it too. For the first time in my life, I was doing something outside of my family. For the first time in my life, I was earning my own money, or at least, that's what I thought. The first time I got paid, I was excited. It wasn't much, just a couple $100, but it was mine. Or at least, it should have been. When I got home, my mother was waiting in the kitchen. She held out her hand. Let me see it. I hesitated, but I pulled out the check, placing it in her palm. She studied it for a moment, nodding in approval. Then she put it in her purse. All of it? I asked, my voice small. Mum looked at me like I was a child who didn't understand how the world worked. Hannah, we put a roof over your head. We feed you. You live in this house. Of course you should contribute. But I earned that money. And we're your family, she said, sharply, as if that meant the same thing. We all have responsibilities. We, That word again. As if Noah and Lily went upstairs playing video games on their brand new consoles while I was scrubbing floors at a coffee shop. As if I wasn't the only one sacrificing everything. For weeks, I built up the courage to ask again. I work hard, I said one night. Shouldn't I be able to keep something for myself? Mum sighed like I was being difficult. Fine, $100 a week. She handed me the money with a look that made it clear this was a favor. Not my right, not something I earned, a favor, and I should be grateful for it. But work wasn't just a financial burden. It became another weapon my parents used against me. I wasn't just expected to work, I was still expected to do everything else. After an 8-hour shift on weekends, I'd come home to a sink full of dirty dishes, piles of unfolded laundry, Noah and Lily lounging on the couch. And if I didn't clean it up, Mom would sigh dramatically, shake her head and say, I guess we just can't rely on Hannah anymore. As if I were the one failing them. As if I owed them every last second of my time. Noah and Lily never lifted a finger. At 12 years old, they were fully capable of helping, but they never had to. Because they were the babies, the golden children, and I was the one who knew better. You're the oldest, Mom always said. You have to help. But helping wasn't optional for me. It was my entire identity. The first time I snapped, I surprised even myself. It had been a long day, school, work, a double shift at the coffee shop because someone had called out sick. By the time I got home, I could barely keep my eyes open. I dropped my bag by the door, heading straight for the kitchen, hoping to grab something quick to eat before collapsing into bed. But the second I stepped inside, I felt it. The anger. My parents and the twins were sitting at the dinner table, plates empty, their eyes locked onto me. Mum's voice was sharp. Where's dinner? I stared at her, not comprehending. What? She crossed her arms. You didn't cook. I blinked, my exhaustion making my brain slow. I worked today. I was gone. That's not an excuse, Dad chimed in. You know dinner is your responsibility. Something snapped. I had never, not once, raised my voice to my parents. But before I could stop myself, the words spilled out. I just worked for 6 hours, I said, my voice shaking. None of you could figure out how to make a sandwich. The silence was almost satisfying. Then Mum stood up, her face hard. Don't you dare talk to us like that, she snapped. This is our house and you will show respect. Dad grabbed the phone and ordered 2 large pizzas. For them, not for me. I watched as the twins cheered, as Mum and Dad sat back down like nothing had happened, like my exhaustion, my hunger, my existence didn't matter. I boiled water, made a cup of tea, and went to bed with my stomach aching. By the time I turned 18, I had already stopped expecting anything from them. But part of me, some desperate, foolish part, still thought maybe, just maybe, my high school graduation would be different. It wasn't. They arrived late, barely making it before my name was called. They clapped politely, no cheers, no congratulations. And the second the ceremony ended, Mom checked her watch. Come on, she said. Noah has a football game, we need to go. That was it, that was my moment, a milestone, a turning point, a day that should have meant something, and to them it was just another obligation, just another event that wasn't about them, so it wasn't important. That night, while my classmates went to parties, I went to work. I must have looked awful when I walked into Carlos' restaurant because he took one look at me and frowned. Hannah, he asked, what are you doing here? Didn't you graduate today? I shrugged. I need the money. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he leaned against the counter. You know, you're one of my best workers. Always on time, never complain, but you can't build a career washing dishes forever. I looked up. What do you mean? My cousin runs a culinary school, he said. He's always looking for new talent. I could put in a word for you. I blinked. You'd pay for me to go to school? He nodded. You have potential, Hannah. You just need a chance. A chance. A way out. I had spent years waiting for someone to see me. And the first person who did wasn't my parents, it was my boss. A near stranger. And in that moment, I realized this was my way out, and I was going to take it. Carlos was the first person to see me. Not as a maid, not as free labor, not as the daughter who owed her family everything. He saw me. And that was the beginning of everything. It was Robert, my boss at the cafe, who introduced me to Carlos. "You're wasted here, kid," he said to me one night after closing. "You're smart, you work hard, you belong somewhere better." I flushed. I hadn't realized anyone had noticed. "My cousin owns a restaurant downtown," Robert continued. "It's tough work, but he pays better. You want in?" I didn't even hesitate. Carlos was nothing like my father. When my father saw my labor as something he was entitled to, Carlos saw my effort as worth something. He was in his 40s, a former chef who had built his own restaurant from the ground up. He didn't tolerate laziness, but he wasn't cruel. If you worked hard, if you showed dedication, he respected you for it. And I had never known what it was like to be respected. At first, I was just another waitress, balancing trays and dodging busy kitchen staff. But I lingered near the kitchen whenever I could, watching the chefs work, memorizing every dish on the menu, absorbing everything. Carlos noticed. "You like cooking?" he asked one night after closing, as I wiped down the counter. I hesitated, then nodded. "Ever think about doing it for real?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" He leaned against the counter. "Culinary school, training, making this your career instead of just a job." My stomach twisted. "I mean, I'd love to, but I can't afford that." Carlos smirked. "That's what scholarships are for." I stared at him. "You'd help me?" He shrugged like it was nothing. "You work hard, Hannah. I don't waste opportunities on people who don't deserve them." My chest tightened. Deserve? No one had ever said that to me before. No one had ever made me feel like I deserved anything. I should have known my parents wouldn't be happy for me, but some naive, hopeful part of me thought maybe, just maybe, they would see me for the first time. I was wrong. Dinner was silent except for the clinking of forks against plates. I swallowed hard, hands clenched under the table. "I have news." No one reacted. I pushed forward. "Carlos, my boss, he offered to help me get into a culinary program. I could take cooking courses, learn to be a real chef." Silence. Then, finally, Mom set her fork down and looked at me with a slow, deliberate stare, and I knew. Before she even spoke, I knew. She wasn't thinking about what this meant for me. She wasn't thinking about my future. She was thinking about herself. And then she said, "Who's going to cook and clean if you go to school?" The words were a slap in the face. Not, "That's amazing," not, "I'm proud of you," not even fake encouragement. Just a question about how my absence would inconvenience her. I looked at Noah and Lily, 15 years old now, fully capable of helping. "They can do it," I said, motioning toward them. Mom laughed. "They need to focus on school," she said, as if I hadn't spent my entire teenage years juggling school, work, and the responsibilities they refused to share. And that was it. That was the moment I finally understood. I wasn't their daughter. I was their servant. A week later, Noah and Lily's birthday came. I had learned to avoid my family's celebrations over the years, but something about this one felt different. Heavier, like I was teetering on the edge of something, and I wasn't sure if I'd fall or jump. When I got home from my shift at the restaurant, the house was a wreck. Balloons tied to chairs, wrapping paper littering the floor, dirty plates stacked on the counter. And then I saw the gifts. Brand new iPhones, MacBooks, a pile of designer clothes still wrapped in tissue paper. I stared at the expensive electronics, at the sheer excess of it all, my stomach twisting. I had spent my entire life giving them everything, and I had never had anything even close to this. My stomach ached. I hadn't eaten all day. I walked into the kitchen and grabbed a slice of leftover pizza. Before I could take a bite, Mom snatched it out of my hands. "Eat later," she said. "Clean up first." Something inside me snapped. It was instant, electric, like a fuse burning out in a single blinding flash. "No!" The word came out before I could stop it. Mom blinked. "What?" I stepped back, breathing hard. "No, I am not cleaning up after your party. I am not doing this anymore." The room fell silent. Dad's head snapped up. Noah and Lily stared. Mom's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" I swallowed, my hands shaking, but I didn't back down. For the first time in my life, I didn't back down. "I'm done," I said, my voice steady. "You treat me like a maid, like a wallet, like I don't matter. But I do. I matter. And I'm leaving. Mom laughed, a cold, sharp laugh. And where exactly do you think you're going to go? I didn't answer. I just turned around and walked away. And this time, they didn't stop me. I went to Mia's place, my close colleague at my restaurant. She opened the door before I even knocked. Mia took one look at my bags and nodded. Took you long enough? I let out a shaky breath. I didn't know if I'd actually do it. She grabbed one of my suitcases and pulled me inside. Well, you did, and I'm proud of you. Her apartment was small, but it was warm, safe. For the first time in my life, I wasn't walking on eggshells. For the first time in my life, I belonged somewhere. I looked at Mia, my throat tightening. I don't know what I'm doing, she smirked. Hannah, I was in your position. I ran away from home when I was 18. At that time, I was also scared. She placed a hand on my shoulder. But trust me, you will never regret choosing yourself. And she was right. A week later, I started working full-time at Carlos's restaurant. I threw myself into the work, learning everything I could, staying late to watch the chefs in the kitchen. Cooking became my escape, my purpose. And just like that, another door opened. For years, I thought I was trapped, but I wasn't. I had just been too afraid to walk away. But now I was free. A year had passed since I walked out of that house and never looked back. A year since I stopped feeling like a prisoner in my own life. A year since I finally started living instead of just surviving, and in all that time, my phone had remained silent. Until it rang one evening. I almost didn't want to pick up, but something inside me, some lingering thread of curiosity, or maybe just the need for closure, made me swipe my finger across the screen. Mum. Her voice was exactly the same, smooth, casual, as if we had just spoken yesterday, as if she hadn't spent my entire life taking everything from me. Hannah, she said, her tone light, as if she were calling to catch up with an old friend. It's been a while. I didn't say anything. She took that as an invitation to continue. Noah and Lily are getting ready for college, she said. It's so exciting, but tuition is expensive, and your father and I were thinking... I knew where this was going before she even finished the sentence. We were thinking you could help with the costs. I let the words sink in. She hadn't called to apologize. She hadn't called to see if I was okay. She hadn't called because she missed me. She had called because she needed something from me. Because that was the only role I had ever played in their lives. The provider, the caretaker, the sacrifice. Something dark and bitter curled inside me, but I didn't feel angry. I felt free. And I laughed, a sharp, surprised laugh that slipped out before I could stop it. Mom paused. What's so funny? I smiled, even though she couldn't see me. What about my college tuition? I asked, my voice light, almost amused. Oh, that's right. I never got to go. She was silent for a while, then a sharp inhale. Hannah? Don't be dramatic. I leaned back in my chair, stretching my legs out. The air in my small apartment was warm, the scent of garlic and butter still lingering from dinner. My dinner, made in my own kitchen, in my own space. I spent my whole childhood sacrificing for that house, I said, my voice calm. Now I choose myself. Mom's tone turned cold, sharp. You're so selfish. There it was, the guilt trip, the last desperate attempt to reel me back in. But it didn't work this time. I had spent my whole life being selfless, and where had it gotten me? Nowhere. I smiled. If being selfish means choosing myself for once, then yeah, I guess I am. And then, before she could say another word, I hung up and blocked the number. Just like that, the last chain binding me to that house snapped, and I felt lighter than I ever had before. Months passed. My life became mine again. I worked hard at the restaurant, moving from waitress to line cook. I spent hours in the kitchen, perfecting dishes, learning techniques. I took Carlos's advice and applied for professional culinary school, and I got in. For the first time in my life, I was building something for myself. Not for them, not for anyone else, for me. And then one afternoon, I was walking down an old, familiar street, lost in thought, when I saw it. The house, Their house. I didn't mean to stop, but my feet slowed, my breath catching in my chest as my eyes landed on the familiar windows, the front steps I had walked up 1,000 times, and through the window, I saw them. Noah and Lily were in the kitchen, cooking. Not me. Them. Lily was at the stove, stirring something in a pot, her face tense with concentration. Noah was pulling clothes from a laundry basket, sorting them with slow, reluctant movements. And sitting in the corner, watching over them with a deep frown on her face, was my mother. She wasn't doing anything. She wasn't giving orders. She wasn't having someone else do the work. She was just sitting there. For the first time in their lives, they were taking care of themselves. Because I wasn't there to do it for them. I stood there for a moment, watching, a strange sense of finality settling into my bones. And then I smiled. A real, genuine smile. I turned away, took a deep breath of the crisp, open air, and walked forward without looking back. Because I didn't belong there anymore. Because I never had. Because I never would again. I used to think I was the foundation that kept that house from collapsing, but no, I was just a chain they used to tie me down. Now I've taken that chain off, and I will never go back. How about you? Are you brave enough to escape like me?